Little okay.
Okay, there we go.
All right, y'all. Hey, Queen. So we're back with another episode of Women Crush Wednesday, and today's episode is called Black Travel Gurus. And I have on this episode Kaylin and I have Naa. They're both travel gurus, so we're gonna be talking about their experience with travel, and yeah. So let's get into the episode. So we're gonna start with an icebreaker. We had already started, but we weren't live. So the question is, what was your favorite country to visit and why?
Okay, so I'll go first. Before I say anything, I just want to let it be known that Ghana, my family's from Ghana, my parents are from Ghana, and that's one of my favorite places to go to in the world. So before anybody tries to come for me and is like, "Oh, you need to say Ghana," like I feel that way, but because of for the purpose of this question, I'm going to choose a different answer. And I think for me, it's a toss up between Brazil and Malta, and so I think Brazil. I think it's just the potential of having a good time, which is why I'm not choosing it. But I love Brazil. But I think my favorite place so far has been Malta because I was just shocked by my own ignorance when I went there. Like I knew nothing about the country, didn't even know that it existed. I just knew I was already going to be in Europe and I needed to go somewhere that had nice beaches that wasn't Greece. So I was like, okay, this place looks cool. So I pulled up on it and I was just shocked. Like obviously it's its own country, but they have such like a good infrastructure, good tourism industry. Like you could pull up there with not having any plans and get your hotel, your accommodations, like everything booked just within the airport. And so like the fact that like it's this own country that's so ready for tourists to come in, has beautiful beaches, beautiful scenery. Like I really liked it.
Oh, I love that. Now I'm thinking I need to hit Malta up.
Yeah, no,
I've never even heard of that, so I'm probably ignorant myself.
It's right off the coast of Italy, so like if you know, like Italy has that like boot, it's like at the edge of it.
Okay, cool.
It's not super well known.
No, it's not.
Okay. How about you, Kaylin?
I was like trying to think while she was talking. I feel like I've been asked this so many times, and I have a hard time choosing between like my top three. So it would be between Egypt, South Africa, and Peru. So I studied abroad in Egypt. That was my first real time like out of the country without my parents, like doing my own thing. So I feel like that experience alone was really great. But Peru, like the food was great. The people were so nice, so much rich history and culture there. So I just really enjoyed myself in Peru, even like exploring obviously like Machu Picchu, things like that, like really amazing experience. And then South Africa, it was my second time on the continent. I did a trip between South Africa and Swaziland, and that was also amazing. It just feels different to be on like, like in Africa, like on that continent. I just feel such a connection every time I travel there. And it was no different when going to South Africa. We did like wine tours. We did some like history tours, getting really great food. It was my first time trying calamari, believe it or not. I used to not be a huge foodie until I started traveling. They have like some of the best seafood in South Africa, some of the best wine. So it would be South Africa and Peru are like tied for me. Like I can't choose between the two.
Okay. All right. I like those answers. Yeah. So we're going to get into the interview. So the first question I have is for Naa, and it's how and why did you get into traveling?
Ooh, that's a good one. So luckily I kind of grew up with an affinity for travel because both, like I said earlier, both my parents are from Ghana. So we would regularly go back home. Like we would fly through London to see family and then go to Ghana. So I just remember always being on a plane or at least having like a trip where we would go somewhere like pretty frequently. But I think as I got older and like as I had to start paying for my own trips, I realized that I really love traveling I want to say back in 2016 is when it all started for me. I had wanted to study abroad in college, but I just couldn't fit it into my schedule. And so I did a few like trips here and there, but I would say that I didn't really take full advantage of all the travel opportunities on my campus, unfortunately. And so I feel like after I graduated, like and I started working. So after I graduated in 2015, started working, that's when I was really like, I need to just get out there and do it. And I think that's also when the Black travel movement got really popular, like on Instagram. I think that 2015, 2016 time frame. So I was seeing people go places and I was like, why am I still at home? And so luckily my roommate, who's a really good friend of mine, she was planning this Euro trip to like Greece. And she was just like, yeah, I'm going to take a vacation. I was like, yo, can I come with you? She didn't even invite me. I was just like, yo, this sounds amazing. Can I come with you? And so that I think was the first time that I did a solo trip with a friend. Like the first time I did a trip without my parents. And so I went to Greece. And then because I was like, yo, I got to hit as many countries as possible, I like went to Greece. And then I think I went to Italy for a day, and I was I was all over the place. But when I went, like, I had such a good time just exploring, seeing new countries, seeing how other people live and their ways of life. So I think, yeah, back in 2016 is when I really caught the travel bug. And then I started traveling more for myself and also for work too. So it's been a good time.
Okay. And I read on your blog that you basically use your salary to travel.
Yes. Pretty much. I look back at my budget like, dang, I really spent all my money this month on travel.
But that's what's up. At least you're like spending it on experiences. Like that's stuff that you can't get back. So that's a great way to spend your money. Okay. So my next question is for Kalyn, and it's what made you start a blog?
Yes, so I actually started my blog in 2014 into 2015. So after graduating college, and the original intent, it's called Weight Loss Travel Games for everyone out there. So the intent of it was to follow my weight loss journey at first. So I actually lost 80 pounds after college. It was like a lifelong struggle dealing with my weight, and I was able to finally like overcome that through natural like diet and exercise. And as I was losing weight, a lot of people were asking me, how did you do it? Can you give us any tips? You know, what's the secret? And I really wanted to show people there is no secret. It's literally just hard work, but it's not that difficult, and it's accessible to everyone. So you don't need, like, there are a lot of gimmicks out there like flat tummy tea or pills. And I don't want to say there's anything wrong with those things, but it's not sustainable. Even like yo-yo dieting. So I just wanted to document my entire journey as a way to educate people, but also to hold myself accountable. And after actually like finally reaching that weight goal, I feel like a lot of other things in my life started to come full circle, and I really started to travel a lot more and realize like if I can achieve this, I can achieve any of these other dreams or goals that I have, and traveling was one of them. Growing up, my grandmother was a traveling nurse, so we traveled around the United States. And we had took a trip like to Canada with the Girl Scout troop, and went to the Caribbean like once or twice. So I am fortunate that I was able to travel as a child, but I want to say that was the extent of it. And I knew I wanted to do more. I wanted to see a lot of the places we would learn about in history class. So I started traveling more, and I would get those same questions as similar to like my weight loss journey. Like, how are you doing it? Is somebody flying you out? Like, how are you affording this? And I just wanted to also show people like this can also be accessible, and this can be attainable. And here's how I'm doing it. That's how my blog ended up transforming, just really to like help educate and share my experience and inspire others.
Okay. So I forgot to tell y'all to just expound upon your brand or your blog earlier, because people are probably like, what? You just jump right into like, why do you have a blog? So you can, well, Kalyn, you kind of just told about your blog, but Naa, you can talk about your blog.
Sure. Yeah, so I just started mine like in May, I think, because I had so much downtime due to the pandemic. So I'm fresh to the blogging game. But I traveled quite a bit. Like, I think I calculated all the days I was gone, and like between 2016 to now, I'm usually gone like a third of the year. So like literally 100 days, I'm usually out of the country. So I feel like if I'm gone that much and I enjoy traveling, why not, put my expertise, so to speak, to use? But I like writing, and I think that I have a lot to contribute to the travel blogging space, because I'm more of like a conscious thinker. So I'm really trying to promote and educate people to travel consciously. So like, as Kalyn was saying, like maybe encouraging more people to go travel to the diaspora, or like celebrate Black culture wherever you go. And that's something that I want to start pushing more for. But my blog, it's called The Pursuit of Flyness. The website is flyness.com. Thank you. And it's just basically about like documenting my travel journey, and then also giving people tips on how to celebrate Black culture wherever they go.
Okay. All right, well, y'all check both their blogs out because I'll be on there trying to get some tips for after this pandemic. So the question I have is also for Naa. Why do you think it's important for Black women to have a space in the travel blogger industry?
So I think it's important because, as if y'all didn't already know, like we run culture. Like Black people really run culture, and Black women are a major part of that. And so I think not only is it just good for us to have a space because like our voices are important, our story is important, but it's also important because every time that I travel somewhere, like a Black woman travels somewhere, you inspire another Black woman to travel. And I feel like that's something that's really not spoken about too much because like a lot of times the reason why I go to certain countries is because I saw another Black woman go and I'm like, well, she can do it. If she went and she had a good time and she was successful and like nothing serious happened to her, she didn't have too many racial issues. Like if she can go and have a good time, I can too. And so even though, I mean, I think the travel industry is largely marketed towards white people and just traveling to European destinations. And so I feel like we as Black women can really, shift that narrative and not only encourage people to go elsewhere, go outside of Europe, but also encourage our people to like go and see more people who look like us. And like, if you're getting tired of living in the US, why don't you go visit somewhere where everybody looks like you? I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but at least like you can feel at ease about certain racial issues or racial tension. And so just moving forward, I feel like if we are the ones who are pushing the culture, if Black women really have a good handle and a good grasp on just like what our culture is, then we should definitely be the same ones who are like promoting and expanding the travel industry. So I'm really thankful that there's quite a few Black travel bloggers who have come before me who just are so open about their experiences and like talk about any and everything. And so I'm just glad that I can be a part of that, potentially give some of that same advice to other people coming up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you guys both are inspirational because every time I see y'all post the place, I'm like, all right, I need to go there. Like, I'm trying to get there. So thank you for what you guys are doing. Okay, so the next question is for Kalyn, and it's what have you learned about yourself and the world through traveling?
It's probably going to sound so cliche, but traveling, the experience of traveling, it's just so life-changing. And when I tell people that, and I'm like, you just have to experience it. And I want to preface this with, there's a lot of privilege in being able to travel. And there's different levels to the privilege. Like, for example, having a US passport, like that poses its own privileges with trying to get visas. But it doesn't have to be an international trip. Like it can also just be exploring your own backyard, what a lot of us are going to be doing with COVID or should be doing because of COVID. But I would say some of the like smaller things that I've learned is just like my love for like wine, for example, or like I'm a true foodie. I enjoy trying new things. But a lot of other things I've been learning. I really love history and I really love learning about different cultures. And this obsession with other cultures really has me learning more about like US or Black American culture because I feel like we're not always taught that as much in school. So doing the digging myself to see the Black American influence on other cultures like around the world and really being able to embrace and learn about that. A few of the other things I've been learning and I share with people is we're a lot more alike and more often than not, people are a lot more kind than like mean or evil. As I travel, I've had experiences where there could be like a language barrier and I've had people be so kind to me, just trying to explain things or trying to be patient as I'm trying to like navigate or order something on the menu that I might be allergic to and want to, watch out for. Or just people just seeing me on the street and realizing I'm a tourist and wanted to help give directions or give information or just say hi. Like I've encountered so many people who are just genuinely kind and it legit makes my heart smile. So it's been a learning experience. I say travel is the best education you get outside of school. And Jess and I, we went to school together, we went to Penn State, and I love that university. I had so much fun at school, but the things I've been learning, the experiences I've been having as I travel, like no education, no amount of money, like you can't buy that. Like you have to be able to experience it.
That's deep. That's deep. Okay, so next question. Dang, we're going through this fast. So both of you guys, what country do you feel is the best place for Black people or people of color to visit?
Okay. So I just wanted to real quickly echo what Kalyn was saying. Like, there's no greater source of education than traveling. And again, it doesn't have to be internationally, just whatever travel can accommodate your needs. But I think anytime that you or accommodate like your financial situation, but anytime you can go somewhere and experience someone else's culture, I think it makes it a lot harder for you to savage them and be rude to them. Like, I think it's really easy to sit in your own home and stereotype people or like not understand what they go through and then label them or make comments about what you see on TV. But a lot of times what you see on TV is not a true reflection of that culture. And so you get to experience and you get to make your own decision, not your own decision, but your own sort of mindset. I can't think of the word, your own opinion about what area is like. And so I've learned so much about myself. Like, I've learned that I'm not good with time because I stay like running to my gate to catch a flight, or like, that I really do like the freedom of just traveling by myself because I can be spontaneous. And so I think there's you just learn about yourself because of like the interesting situations that you get put in when you're somewhere that's not familiar to you, but then you also learn about another culture. So like, I completely agree with everything that you said.
You learned so much resiliency. I think it was important. And I, like, when reading the questions, I kind of wrote down my thoughts and realized I forgot one. And you hit the nail on the head. I feel like the media is so skewed. And I feel like, especially being here in the US, there's just this idea that like the United States is the greatest country ever. And like, it's not. I don't want to crap on this country, but it's definitely not the greatest ever. And I just, for some examples, like I feel like a lot of countries in Africa are sometimes misrepresented in our media here. And like, so when I tell friends or family I'm traveling there, and there's always like, oh my God, be safe, or where are you going to stay? Just like ignorant comments. And I say ignorant now because the internet is too accessible. There are too many photos. Like, people shouldn't still have these ideas or perceptions of other cultures. But it's our media, and they do a really poor job at representing other countries in a certain light. And I even think of Cuba. Like, when I was going down there, I think we have a certain perception that they need help or their government's so evil. And while there are all of those things, like, and you can't deny it, when going there, I realized the Cuban people were so happy. And I want to say they were honestly like happier than a lot of people here in the United States because they had a more simple way of life, or they were just they had a lot more gratitude for the things that they had. So we come over there, and again, this is no shade to anyone, but, you know, like kind of sometimes flashy, or I'm going to bring all this stuff to the Cuban people, and they're just happy to be around family, to have time, or sometimes you be able to connect to the internet. Like, the life was just so much more simple in other countries. And I feel like a lot of times Americans will travel with this idea that like the US is better, or I'm going to go help this country, or I'm going to go be a savior, or whatever have you be it, not realizing like people are sometimes a lot happier and like better off, except for like finances, like not worrying about those things, but quality of life like is sometimes a lot better in other countries. And I've been learning that just as I've been traveling to places we deem as a third world country, which if you follow me on Twitter, I call the US a third world country like every other day because it's just so ghetto here. Like, we just deal with so much.
Yes. So I have another question I just thought about. So do you guys have like a travel fund that you save for and you put money aside for traveling, or how does that work with you guys?
I do. So I actually, finances is a big thing for me because I wasn't really taught about it a lot at home. And after getting like a job, I wanted to be smart with my finances. So I have like 3 savings accounts. So one just long-term savings, one savings for emergencies, and then I have my travel savings. And they're actually online banks. So I use Synchrony Bank. It's high yield savings. So it actually gives you greater interest than like a brick and mortar bank, just because they don't have a lot of the same overhead costs. So I make sure to put like a certain percentage of my check every month into that account, and I don't touch it except for when I'm going on a trip. And in addition to that, I use a travel credit card. You didn't exactly ask about this, but my credit card, I swipe everything. So even during COVID, like I have Chase Sapphire, they increased the rate you can earn points. So it was like 5 times points for groceries. So we were all at home buying a bunch of food or ordering out. So I made sure to continually like swipe my credit card and pay it off every month, and then use that for points. So I have like my savings account that I set aside just for travel, again, Synchrony Bank, and it's earning greater interest rate percentage than like a brick and mortar bank. But then I also have my travel credit card where I earn points for like everything, and I'm buying from gas, food, or other travel. And I'll use a lot of those to afford trips. So a lot of times my flights or like my hotel, I might get for free via the points just from using my travel credit card.
Yes.
And I have a similar sort of plan and regimen. Like I make sure that I, put into my retirement. Like I do like all those things automatically get debited from my paycheck. But then I also have a travel fund that I set up, and I use this app called Capital, which automatically deducts, money from your bank account based on your spending habits. And so you can set it up how you want to. So like you could say, every time I go buy coffee from a place, put like $1 into this fund. And so you can do a lot of fun and creative, or set up a lot of fun and creative rules for that. I just make a standard flat fee where it's like every week put X amount of money into this bank account. And so I think like it depends on how you're traveling. Like you could try to save like up to $3,000 a year, or if you want to do something more local, like maybe $1,000, depending on how many trips you want to do. But I tend to try to save at least $3,000 into that fund, and then potentially use other money, like if I can, scramble it. But I also use a Chase Sapphire Reserve, which is an amazing credit card. Sadly, the annual fee is like $500.
Girl, it's going up.
It was $450, which was a lot, and then they increased it to $550 like this year. So it hurts. You do get a $300 travel credit, and you get all these other perks like accesses to airport lounges. But I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but like that $450 hurts. So it's
the extra. I want to say the extra 100 or 150 they tacked on, because like when looking at that card, I'm like $450. That's a lot of money. Can I justify this? But like you said, the $300 credit brings it down to $150, and then priority pass access and global entry. So all the other like little things that you get for it, I'm like, all right, I can justify this. When they made it 500 something, and I think they added DoorDash Pass, which I'm not here to be ordering food. It be something else that's related to travel.
Yeah, exactly. Like they added all these perks that I don't take advantage of. And I'm just like, I would just much rather have had it at $450 and like not had this stuff. But
I think I'm gonna have to leave them. I don't know about you. I'm
committed. I got like, because I'm a hoarder, so that's the other thing. I don't use my points because I don't know what I'm waiting for, but I have like 200,000 Chase Sapphire points, and like I just refuse. I don't know why. I feel like maybe I should use it. I should like save it for a time when I'm broke. That way I know I can always. But I'm like paranoid. So points are great. I just don't.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was very informative. Thank you, both of you, ladies. So I have another question that I just thought about. So how do you go about like PTO at your job when you're traveling? Since you guys travel a lot, like how do you do that?
I was work from home before. So I just started a new role in July. I got a promotion. So my new role, I'll be in the office. So I'm a little upset about that because I haven't worked in an office job and since we graduated actually. So for like 6 years. Yeah. So I've been like work from home or in like a field setting. So I had a lot of flexibility. So I only needed to be in my home base, which is now Massachusetts, when I had like customer meetings. But outside of that, my company didn't need to know where I was at as long as I had Wi-Fi. So I definitely took advantage of that. And previous to working for this company, which I've been here for 2 years, my last company, it was field sales. So I still was supposed to be in my home base in Brooklyn. But I would just work with my manager to say, hey, I'm going to work from home, get some office stuff done. And maybe home at that point was like Bermuda. They didn't need to know that as long as I had Wi-Fi. But for a lot of my friends who I travel with who don't have that flexibility of working from home, we would try to leverage like holiday weekends, so like Memorial Day or Labor Day, even though it tends to be a little more expensive to travel around then, you also just get that free day off. So we would try to like leverage or take advantage of those, or do a lot of like Thursday through like Monday and catching like really late flights. And sometimes we would catch early flights Monday, and I don't know how they did it. They would go into work right after. Again, I was working from home, so that was easy, but just trying to take advantage again of those holidays, or just making sure you're really using like the like long weekend, like a Thursday through Sunday or Thursday through Monday.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I mean, I work for the government, so like thankfully they're pretty judicious with leave, and we get all the federal holidays. So I just be tagging it up, but then I also take advantage of like, because technically I know PTO and like leave calendar years are different for everybody, but like with the government, you can go into a deficit with your leave just as long as like by the end of the year, you have your balance is like above zero. So sometimes I would like finesse it where I would like just travel at the beginning or the end of a year and just like take hella time between those two, because it's 2 different leave calendar years. But yeah, for the most part, I just stock up my leave. We also have, I have a flexible schedule, so I can just sort of, as long as I get my 80 hours in a pay period, like it's not too terrible. So I tend to if I need to, if I'm about to go on a trip, just try to work more at the beginning of the week so I can take more time at the end of the week and potentially not have to use leave.
Okay.
I will say, just for the audience or the listeners, I've been trying to encourage my friends to really leverage COVID, and it's definitely easier said than done. But now that a lot of us have shown that we can be efficient and effective in our roles from home, really using that leverage to ask companies hey, can I work from home on a Friday, or go back to doing that a few days a week, and then using that time to also get in some vacation time. And not to say you're going to work and then not actually work and just travel, but taking your computer and working from a different setting as long as you have Wi-Fi. So again, easier said than done. Not all companies are going to be for that, because I know my company is really pushing for us to get back into the office, which is slightly annoying. But for a closed mouth doesn't get fed, so doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That's true. So let's talk about the resources on your websites that you guys offer. So either one of you guys can start.
Yeah, I mean, so for right now, since I just started with my blog, I just give sort of a write-up on the places that I've gone to, and give a couple of restaurants or just a couple of places that you can go, suggestions for things that you can do if you're visiting the same location. And then I also try to give a thoughtful perspective and a Black perspective on what I went through, what I did.
I love that.
And so I do have a couple of tips just on credit cards that you can use, or so if you're looking for the Chase Sapphire Reserve, I have a little write up on that. So you can look into that, some luggage reviews, and just a few tidbits. But I think moving forward, I really want to start a directory of all the Black places that I visit, or Black things, just things that you can do, or ways that you can replicate the way that I've traveled. I haven't set that up yet, but that is the goal eventually.
I love that. My blog is split up between the weight loss and the travel. So the weight loss section highlights the process I went through for losing weight and how I'm really maintaining that, as well as tips for other people. So how to find low carb alternatives if you're trying to cut out dairy, understanding your body type, which really helps you to either lose or gain weight, whatever your goals are. And then there's the travel section, which I will say I probably spend a lot more effort and time into updating content for. It's a lot more fun to focus on the travel stuff more often. So I'll have, similar to what Naa said, I'll have travel guides, reviews of the places that I've been to, tips for credit cards and different things we just spoke about. Also wrote an e-guide. So it's really outlining my entire process. It's called the Ditch to Travel Agent Starter Kit. And that's no shade to travel agents, but it's really to show you don't need to pay anyone to help you. All the resources are out there. Here's this guide that can help you to plan your trips. That's available on my website. I started an Instagram live, IGTV live series with other travel bloggers. And so we talk about things from being an expat, traveling while being solo and a Black woman, traveling while being a man. I had Jeff Jenkins of Chubby Diaries. He came on and talked about inclusivity in the travel space. So I do a lot of those, again, to just highlight other experiences that maybe I don't have, but to do an interview style so the audience can get that. And more recently, been taking people on travel tours through wine. I mentioned earlier, I really love wine, and I've been learning a lot about it as I've been traveling. So bringing that back to people. So you might not be able to get to Italy because of COVID, but let's taste Italy through their different wine varietals. So that's on my blog and on my Instagram.
Okay. All right. So I have one last question that I just thought about. So what country would you recommend to somebody that has never traveled outside of the country before? They live in the US and they've never gone to another country before.
I can go. I mean, I have two. So, well, I have a few, but I think, so like I said before, I'm biased. I'm always going to recommend Ghana if possible, especially for Black people and Black culture, because I feel the one thing I love about Ghana, even though, it still can develop a little bit more and it could be a little bit better, I feel it just feels so welcoming when you go back, and the party culture is really robust. So I feel it's the one place where I can go and just be in peace, and I can party in peace, and I don't have to worry about police like I always used to have to worry about. Police aren't going to come to break up the party. If anything, the police are going to come and ask you for money because they want to bribe. I didn't say that, but your worries are different. And it feels nice. Like it's one of the places that you can go. You can party till like 6, 7 a.m. and then be safe the entire time. And so it's just really nice to see just Black people everywhere and just the love of like being happy. And kind of like what Kaylin said earlier, I feel like especially in Africa, like you go places and the infrastructure may not be developed as in other countries, but you feel like you can feel the happiness that people have. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's very true in Ghana. Like people are just calm, they're joyful, like they appreciate a lot of the little things. And so that plus like being able to party, plus like still getting the same tourist experience of seeing like nice statues and beaches and things depending on where you go. I think it's really a great place to visit. Now, it's not cheap to get to Ghana, so I understand why it's not feasible for everybody. I don't want to be basic and say, like, there's a bunch, like Mexico is pretty easy for people in the US because you can get to, regardless of which side, East Coast or West Coast you're on, you could probably get to a Mexican airport or like get to Mexico pretty cheaply and still be far enough from the US to feel like you're out of the country, but not far enough to feel out of place. I love the UK. I like going there because I feel like, especially with London, since it's such a small city, it's very, like you can feel the diversity and you can see it because the population density is smaller. Not to say that they're not racist because they still have a lot of racial issues, but I just feel like it's one of the few cities that you can go to and you really do feel like it's cosmopolitan and it's pretty diverse. So I think Mexico for people who like want, maybe something that's a little bit easier to plan, but the UK is also a good starting point, and definitely Ghana if you can do it.
Okay.
I have not been to Ghana yet. I was supposed to go this year, but COVID. But now I'm like, I need to go. She's selling it. Like, I definitely need to make sure I go. Similar to you, I was going to suggest like London, one just for the language barrier. If people don't speak another language, that might be like an easier place to start. And the culture is very similar. London reminds me a lot of like New York to an extent. So it's a great place. I think it's a great starting place, but she mentioned that, so I'll throw out another one. Mexico is also a very good option. I think the Caribbean, a lot of people do go there. Sometimes the Caribbean gets a bad rep, but there's so much culture, really great food, and it's very accessible from the US. So islands like Jamaica, the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, or even going like to Bermuda, which technically isn't a part of the Caribbean, but that island's a little bit more expensive than some of the other ones I just noted. And I want to say South America. I feel like South America, again, has so much culture. So places like Brazil, which have like a huge like Afro, like Brazilian community. So there's a lot of history down there and also good food. And you can always find flight deals if you're really doing the work. When I went to London, I think I paid $300. I think I paid like $350 to get down to like South America. So you can make it cost effective. Just got to do your research.
Yeah, that's true. I just lost my train of thought. I was going to ask something else. Oh, okay. I keep thinking of these questions while we're on here. So how do you guys handle a language barrier when you're in a different country? Do you guys like research the language, try to learn some phrases before you go? How do you prepare for that?
Google Translate has saved my life.
Yep.
I can sit here and say like I don't usually make an attempt to learn the language. Not maybe it's my American ignorance or my American like elitism, but I'm just kind of like I'm always so focused on all the other aspects of the trip that like I just don't have time to sit there and listen or to sit there and learn a new language. I've gotten by with my Spanglish like quite often most places I go, but then a lot of times people just like take pity on me or they're like, let me find the one American speaker the one English speaker. Let me find the one English speaker who can help like navigate the language barrier. But I think Google Translate is good if you can download the languages so you can have them stored offline. That people have self-service. That's good if you are really in bind. But for the most part, I mean, it is helpful to learn a few words because people definitely respect that a lot more. But I'm not good at doing that.
Okay, that's real.
For me, I studied Russian when I was in like university and high school. I was trying to become fluent, and I haven't been to Russia yet, so that's still like a goal of mine. But I also recently tried to start teaching myself Spanish. So I think you made a good point and I hate to like overgeneralize, but I feel like a lot of travelers from the US forget that like not everywhere else speaks English. And so like when I first started traveling and seeing people kind of like berate like locals like for and being angry that they don't speak English back to them, or like a sign or something isn't in English. So I told myself like, you're gonna learn a little bit of the language like for every country you go to, or download like the Google Translate like offline version, so it can seem as though I'm making an effort. But like most of the countries I go to have been Spanish speaking, or that I've traveled to thus far. So I also have a little bit of Spanglish, and I tend to like, it tends to be that if you try, people will take pity and then they'll try back with some English or find somebody else who speaks English or speaks slower for you. And even I had the same experience in France. I speak no French, but I was trying. My accent's terrible, but I'm like, let me make an effort. And people were kind of looking at me crazy, but then they felt bad and they appreciated that I was like trying a little bit. So I leverage Duolingo, which is a free app, and that's how I learned some like phrases. So I always try to learn like hi, bye, thank you, where is, how much. Yeah, those are the main thing. Like where is, like what's this place, or where is that place, or like how do you say, and then I'll say whatever word I want to say like in English. But those are some of the key phrases I try to learn. But when I went to Thailand and different countries in Asia, I will say that was harder for me, especially if like the language doesn't use like traditional like letters in like, you know, our alphabet. That was a little bit harder for me. So that I struggled a bit, but I still tried to make an effort.
Yeah, and if not, you end up having a great travel story, right?
Yes.
Like I went to Morocco, and I was we had this sort of house guy, like a house manager, who took us around and showed us everything. And he only spoke Arabic, Spanish, and French. And so I went with a group of people, and between the group, we had two people who barely spoke Spanish and one person who spoke French. So like if we couldn't say it in Spanish, the French speaker would try to step up. And I'm like, look at this man who can speak 3 languages fluently, and we can still barely communicate. We made it work. Like sometimes you just have to take the L if you don't know. Like,
isn't it funny? Like as I've been traveling, so many other people or like different countries, they all know like 1 or 2 languages. Like they'll know their language and then like English or like Spanish, like some other language. You come here and we barely got English down. It's exactly. Like, what's going on?
I really appreciate and respect them, because they understand, like, especially if you go somewhere in Europe, I feel like on average people speak at least 3 languages. I'm making this up, but like a lot of them, because they know that. Yeah, there's this fluidity of travel, so they're more accommodating to like the rest of the region, the rest of the continent. Whereas with the US, we're just like arrogant. So it's like, well, Canada speaks English and French, but we're still like, they're gonna speak English to us. And Mexico, like, it is what it is, right? So,
or they say speak American, and you're like, what language is that?
Exactly.
Right. Well, I appreciate you ladies for joining me on this episode of Women Crush Wednesday. So how can the viewers follow you guys on social media, your website, all of that?
Yeah. You can go first, Kalyn.
Oh, thanks, girl. Well, find me on Instagram and Twitter at FitFlyFlournoy, so FitFlyFlournoy. And my blog is weightlosstravelgames.com. I also have links to all of my social media via my website. So hope you guys check me out.
Yeah. And then for me, my website is thepursuitofflyness.com. So I also have links to everything, like my Pinterest, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. But on all the platforms, I'm having a lot of fun with TikTok. So definitely look me up there.
But I don't have a TikTok, but I see it on Instagram when you post it, and I be cracking up.
So the app is really addictive. They're kind of violating some privacy rules. So like, if you don't need it on your phone, don't get it. But it is very fun if you do get it. But my handles on all my social media are the same. They're just my name. So it's Naa _Adei _Monte. So it's spelled NAA_ADEI_MANTE. So I'm sure if you like, it's probably
I'll link both of your information. I think I put both your websites, but I didn't put your social media. So I'll put your social media in the description box for people to find you.
Perfect.
Also, like what Naa was saying about like basically like a directory, I'm creating one for women-owned businesses. So if y'all know any women that have I'm gonna put y'all on there, of course, for travel. But If y'all know any women-owned businesses, brands, anything like that, let me know. Also, the viewers, y'all too, you can go to our Instagram at Redefine Woman and just comment on that post so that I can make the directory so we can support other queens.
Yes.
That's amazing. And Naa, I would love to, I'm going to follow you, love to connect in the travel space. So I'll reach out.
Yeah,
we were talking, I was like, yo, let me look up her.
Yes.
All right, y'all. So thank you again. And next time, well, we'll probably be back in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be talking about being married in your 20s in ministry on Instagram. So thank you for joining us today.
For that.
Bye.
Bye, guys.